Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This video is part 6 in our How to Easily Manage Your Home series. And next week's video will actually be the last one in the series, and we will be wrapping it up in that video. So if you guys have any ideas of things you would like me to talk about in future videos, I think I may shift gears a little bit, go away from the routines for a couple weeks, and maybe do some decluttering videos or meal planning or budgeting videos. So if you have any preference about videos you would like to see next, please leave those in the comments down below and I will do my best to make those videos for you. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I am Kassy with makingtimeforgiggles.com, and I make videos all about simplifying mom life. So be sure to subscribe down below if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it. If this is your first video in the series though, I do recommend that you go back and watch the videos in order before watching this video, because the routines really build on themselves and it will make a lot more sense to get your family involved once you have some of the basic routines set up. So I will leave a link in the cards and down in the description below if you would like to go check out those other videos. Now, just like in the other videos, if you want to follow along and take notes and create some routines along with me, go ahead and grab a pen and your notebook or binder that you have been working out of to create your home management binder. Or if you would like to have the same templates that I am using, feel free to grab that autopilot workbook and I will leave that in the description down below. So if you do have that autopilot workbook, you will be wanting to grab your chores by age sheet, and that will be showing us which chores are appropriate for which ages and how many chores they should be doing at each age as well. You will also want to grab the regular chores versus paid chores sheet. That's a tongue twister. Regular chores versus paid chores sheet. Okay, I think I got it that time. But this will be helping you decide which chores should be part of daily life and which chores should be paid. Then we will also be using the chores for cash sheet, the family meeting agenda, and there are 2 pages on that one. And we will also be filling out the family chore calendar. But if you don't care if you have the same templates that I do or not, that's totally fine. You can definitely continue to make your own templates in that workbook or binder or whatever else you are using. So in this video, I am just going to assume that you don't have any sort of chore system in place, because that's probably why you're watching this video. So if you do already have a chore system in place, this probably isn't going to help you too much, but I'm just assuming a blank slate. You haven't been doing anything, and this is to really get your family started with an effective chore system. So because of that, I'm actually not going to be filling everything out for my family this time, because we already have an effective chore system, and there are just way too many variables for me to be able to show you an effective example. So I don't know if you and your spouse work full-time, if neither of you work full-time, if both of you work from home since COVID, if you have young kids or teenagers or kids that are in school, if you are homeschooling, and there are just way too many options out there for me to be able to show you an example. So I'm just going to show you a bare bones explanation for how you would set this up and tailor it for your family. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now, if your spouse is already super helpful around the house or you don't have a spouse and this part would be irrelevant to you, you can go ahead and skip ahead. I will put a timestamp in the description down below. But this first step here is going to be about getting your spouse and yourself on the same page. So if that doesn't apply to you, go ahead and skip ahead to getting the kids involved. So the way that you want to get your spouse involved is you want to sit down sometime away from the kids, preferably after they go to bed or they aren't at home at some point. And you want to have an honest conversation with them and explain to them how you just can't do every single thing by yourself. And you can talk to them also about how it's important for the kids to help out around the house for so many reasons. I could do a whole video about why you want your kids to do chores, but I'm not going to take the time to do that right now. But you want them to be on the same page with you as far as getting everyone on board. Because what you don't want to happen is for you to sit down to your family meeting and have everyone rolling their eyes, including your spouse, saying, "Oh, great, mom is making us do all this work. This isn't fair. This isn't good." No, you want to show up to that family meeting as a united front, telling your kids, "Hey, this is something that we're going to start doing as a family, and we're really excited about the changes that are going to happen because of it." Now, as you go into this meeting with your spouse, I want you to make a couple of assumptions, and that might sound weird because everyone says don't assume, but I actually want you to assume that your spouse is not a jerk and that they wouldn't mind helping if they knew how. a lot of guys especially really don't know how to help, and they don't see things the way that we do. We see a messy kitchen and think, oh, well, shoot, this needs to be clean. And they see a messy kitchen and think, huh, somebody should clean that. And they don't necessarily put two and two together that, hey, why don't you clean it? So guys often have to be asked. And them needing to be asked doesn't mean that they're a jerk and they don't want to help us out and we have to do everything. It just means that we need to ask. So go into this meeting without any preconceived ideas about how they're not going to help you and it's going to be terrible and you're going to end up fighting. Just go in with a really open mind and just ask them, hey, do you mind helping me out? And assume that there's going to be a good outcome. And if you assume that, the likelihood is that there will be. Then once you and your spouse are on the same page, you can go through each step that I'm going to show you in this video together and make these decisions together so that when you do show up to your family meeting, the kids know that both parents are on the same page and they aren't going to get sympathy from one or the other when it comes to doing their chores. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to look at the chores by age sheet. And this is going to help you decide which chores you give to each child and how many chores they should be doing each day. So how this sheet works is I have it age categories grouped by 2 to 3 years. So 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7, and so on. And then I have the number of chores that the children should be doing each day based on their age. And then below each age category, we have chore ideas that make sense for each age. So I'm not going to read through all of them because you can get this template, but I will give you some ideas and that will help you just get started when you are creating your own chore routines. And essentially what you want to be doing here is as the child grows up, you want to be teaching them how to clean the house. Now, you aren't just going to tell them clean the house, but what you want to be doing is cycling them through all of the chores so that by the time they are 18 or whatever age they are on their own, they're at least familiar with and are able to do every chore required for running a home. So the 2 to 3 year old category should be able to do everything in the 2 to 3 year old category by the time they're 4. And then in the 4 to 5 year old category, they want to be able to do everything in the 2 to 3 year old category and everything in the 4 to 5 year old category by the time they're 6, and so on. So each column should be able to do the columns before. And you know when it's time to cycle through chores when your kid starts to get bored and complain and say, I don't want to do my chores. Try mixing up the chores and giving them some different responsibilities because there's a good chance that that chore just isn't challenging them at that point. So some ideas for chores by age. Let's start with the 2 to 3 year olds. They should be doing 1 to 2 chores per day. And by chores at this age, I mean helping out somebody else. So basically all of their chores say help in front of them. But I have found for my kids, they are able to help fold washcloths at this age. They can help spray cleaner when you are cleaning the bathroom. They can help wipe up spills. Basically any chore that I was doing, I was able to find some way that they could help me out with it. But they felt really big because they felt like they were helping and doing a chore at the same time. Then 4 to 5 year olds are a lot more independent than 2 to 3 year olds. And they can do 2 to 3 chores a day, depending on the difficulty. You don't want your kid to feel like they're doing chores all the time, but you want to give them enough that they feel like they're helping out. And they've actually done studies and found that children actually do their chores better when they feel challenged and feel like they're actually making a difference in their family and they aren't just getting tiny little chores that mom and dad don't want to do. No, kids, especially younger kids, really want to be challenged and want to feel like they are making a big difference. So one idea for 4 to 5 year olds would be cleaning a toilet. And I wouldn't do more than 1 toilet in a day for this age of kids because it is still a big job for them and they are learning the process. And you'll probably also want to check up on them afterwards and make sure they did it correctly. Another thing they could do is cleaning the mirrors. So basically what I would do at this age is just take a part of a chore like cleaning the bathroom and let them do that part. I wouldn't send them to the bathroom and say, clean the bathroom, but I would give them a piece of the project and we would work on it together. Another thing I recommend for 4 to 5 year olds is having them clean their own dish after each meal and putting that dish into the dishwasher if you have one. 4 to 5 year olds should also be able to make their beds on their own and tidy their own rooms. then 6 to 7-year-olds can really start to be a big help around the house. So they can be able to clean the bathroom all by themselves, assuming they've learned the little steps along the way. If you're just starting out and your child is 6 or 7 and they've never done chores before, don't just point them to the bathroom and say, go clean the bathroom. You'll want to start them off in baby steps so they can learn the whole process. But if your 6 or 7-year-old has been doing chores at 4 and 5 and learning the process, they can clean the bathroom on their own at this point. They can dust the furniture, clear the table, clear the counters, and just more helpful chores. And really there is a huge amount of independence at this stage. If you give them a chore and expect them to do it, they really will rise to the occasion and be able to really be a helper around the house. Then 8 and 9-year-olds are able to do even bigger chores. They should be able to clean the kitchen, help out with the laundry, sweep the floors by themselves, start vacuuming the floors by themselves, potentially depending on how tall they are and how heavy your vacuum is to move. And with each stage, they just get more independence and can have bigger responsibilities, assuming they are doing a good job and have the experience that they need to be able to do that. Then for 10 to 12-year-olds, they should be able to tidy a part of the house if you need them to. They should be able to do some of the laundry on their own. They should be tall enough at this point and understand the concept. So definitely have them start helping out with laundry as early as possible so they can learn this skill. And between 10 and 12, they also should be able to start cooking some simple dinners by themselves. So if you have kids in this age range, I highly recommend giving them one night a week that they cook so that they can learn this skill and practice it on a consistent basis. Then the 13 to 15-year-olds should be able to mow the lawn, tidy the house, cook more dinners by themselves and more complex dinners, and they should be able to do their own laundry, which I highly recommend that you have them do because it's such an important skill for them to learn and be competent in by the time they leave the house. Then the 16 to 18-year-olds should pretty much be able to do everything involved with running the home. And if you and your spouse both work outside of the home and you have a child between 16 and 18, you could even give them the chore of doing the laundry or more complex chores like that, where they will be able to keep track and go back and switch the laundry over as needed. If you are having your child do the laundry though, you may want to make sure that each member is folding their own clothes because you don't want to overwhelm a child. So they can also teach a younger sibling a chore for their chore because that would really help you out. They should be able to cook pretty much any dinner by themselves, and you could even have them going grocery shopping for you or creating a meal plan because that is also an important skill that they will need when they are on their own. So like I said, that wasn't the entire list because I don't want to bore you guys with me just listing things off in this video, but if you want to see the full list, that is in the template. So go ahead and write out a list of chores that you think each child in your family would be able to do. And you don't have to decide which chore they are doing just yet. Just write out a list of ideas that you think that they could probably do on their own and would be helpful for you if they do them. Next, we are going to move on to the regular chores versus the paid chores. And this is a question I get a lot. Should I pay my children to do chores or should I not? And the answer is yes, because you want them to have some chores that are just a part of life. They live in the house, they have the benefits of living in the house and being a part of the family, so they should be able to help out around the house. But there are also chores that they should get paid for if you want them to do. So my rule of thumb is any chores that are required to keep the house running do not get paid. So things like making the bed, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the kitchen, doing the laundry, any part of these chores is just a part of life. And they really shouldn't be paid for these things because nobody pays you to clean the house. Then anything that is extra above and beyond a regular chore, they can get paid for. So this would be things like cleaning the baseboards, cleaning the windows, deep cleaning the kitchen, raking the leaves, cleaning doorknobs or light switches. Anything that is above and beyond just daily life could be something that they get paid for. So with that in mind, what you want to do next is go through your Chores for Cash worksheet. And what we have here is a column for the chore, how much they're going to earn, name, approved with little check boxes, and paid. And let's see if I can get this to zoom appropriately for you so you can see that and create your own template if you are not using this one. So you are going to look at this list of paid chores over here, or you're going to create your own list of paid chores that you think are chores that they deserve some payment for. And you're going to write a list of all of the chores that you are willing to pay for. Then you are going to write the amount of money that you are willing to pay. And be sure you do this before the family meeting, because if you let your kids decide, they will tell you you owe them way more than you actually do for each of the chores. So decide ahead of time how much you think each chore is worth, and take into account their age and ability. So the amount that I pay my 6-year-old for a chore is more than the amount that I pay my 3-year-old, because my 6-year-old is actually able to do more helping. I will still pay my 3-year-old if she does an extra chore, but it will be less because she isn't going to do it as thoroughly, and she's definitely not going to stick with the chore as long as my 6-year-old will. So keep that in mind when you're deciding how much they can earn. And then the name column you're going to leave blank. What you're going to do is you're going to put this on your fridge after the family meeting, after you explain it. Don't do it right now. But once you have had your family meeting and all of this has been explained, you are going to put this on your refrigerator, or they may want to fill some of it out on the night of the family meeting. And they can write their names next to any of the chores that they would like to do. And then they will have 1 week, or however long you decide, to complete the chore, have it approved, and get paid for it. Or if they don't do it in the allotted amount of time, someone else can claim the chore. Now, one rule I like to have with this is that they have to do their regular chores before they can do any paid chores that day. And this is just an extra incentive for them to get those regular chores done and not skip all of them and just do a lot of extra paid chores. So I highly recommend having that be a requirement where they have to do their regular chores for the day before they can work on any of their paid chores. Now, they can put their name on it ahead of time. I hope that's clear. They can put their name on it and reserve that chore. But for them to actually do it, they have to be caught up on all of their other chores that they have. And then the approved is so that once they do the chore, you can actually check and say, yes, this passes, you will get paid for this. And then another column here for you to keep track of if you've paid them or not, because you do want to make sure if you agreed to pay them that you follow through with that. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to fill out the family meeting agenda. And if you have a spouse or significant other, I recommend filling this out together so that you are both ready at the family meeting to explain the new rules to your kids. So what we have on this agenda, I will just go over it real quickly for you, is number 1 is just to let them know that you need your help. Kind of like I was talking about at the beginning. Let them know that you really can't do it all. And especially if they are old enough to help out, explain that this will be a huge help for you and that you want them to be involved and to learn how to run the house. Now, they may not like this very much, but it is actually really important for kids to feel that they are needed. So this is an important step. And if you need to, there's some area here that I have that you can write some notes, or if you're writing out your own notes, just write down a couple sentences about how hard it has been for you to have to do everything on your own and how it will make your life so much easier if you could get some help from them. And you could even write down some benefits for them too, like learning how to run a house when they are on their own. Then the second thing here is explain any new rules that are going on in the family. Like I said, I'm assuming here that you don't have any real rules for chores in your house, which is why you're watching this video. So explain. Are there going to be consequences if they don't do their chores? Are there going to be rewards if they do the chores? And I recommend doing both because some kids are more motivated by rewards, some are more motivated by consequences. So it's really a good idea to have both set up and in place. And the other part that I have under number 2 is to read the full list of chores that need to be done every week. And if you remember, we created this list back in the last video when we wrote down every single thing that needs to be done in a week. And you can read that out to your kids and show them these are all of the things that it takes to keep the house running every single week. So then under number 3, write down, and you can write this down ahead of time, write down each child's name in your family. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go around the room and let them pick one chore each that they would like to be responsible for. The reason you want to let them pick is because there may be some chores that kids like doing a lot better than others. And especially this first round, you will have a lot less resistance if you can get some buy-in from them. And letting them pick will definitely give you this buy-in. Now, some kids, especially if they're really young, won't have any idea what they are actually capable of, and they'll just want to help out. So that's when you'll want to show them the list that you made of age-appropriate chores for each of them and let them pick from that list if they need to. But older children should definitely be able to know what they are capable of and what they aren't. So you want to just keep going around the circle until you feel that every child has a good amount of chores for the week. And you want them to have one main chore every day, in addition to things like making their bed and keeping their room clean and helping clean up after meals. So then once the children have all divided up the chores that they want and need, then you come down to number 4 and write down your name and any other adults in your family's name, and you're going to divide up the rest of the chores among you. So I recommend doing it this way because you want the kids to have first pick. They aren't going to like doing chores, but they're kids, so you want to kind of give them a break and let them pick first. And when it comes to dividing up the chores among the adults, I also recommend that you let the other adults choose first, because I know I personally would rather have some help, even if I'm stuck with doing the things that I would rather not do, than to have no help at all. So it just is easier to get other people's buy-in when you are letting them choose first. Then once you've assigned the chores to everyone, on the second page here, number 5, you are just going to complete the family chore chart together. And how this chore chart works, it's very similar to how the weekly rhythm worked. And you just put the blocks into these coral ovals, days of the week across the top, and then you can just write down people's names and the chore on the day of the week and the block that they are doing them in. So this way you can keep track of, oh, hey, Katie was supposed to vacuum this morning and that isn't done, so we need to remind her and get her to do it. As opposed to just deciding, okay, you guys are in charge of all these chores, and then assuming that they're going to remember and that the chore is just going to magically get done, especially if you haven't had a chore system in place before. This chore calendar, putting this on the fridge and write down which days mom is going to do certain things and which days dad is going to do certain things and which block of the day that's going to get done in. It will help just hold everyone accountable and help the kids realize that this is just going to be the way it is now, and forgetting to do your chore isn't going to work because everyone can look at the calendar and see who is in charge of what on what day. Then back to that family meeting agenda, number 6 on here is adding chores to the morning and or evening routine to each child. And I will remind you guys how those look. My kids look pretty ridiculous right now because they're having so much fun marking them off. But writing on there, making their bed, folding pajamas, putting them away, tidying up their room, or like I have on my oldest daughters here, load the washing machine. And that is her morning chore. Now you may be thinking, why not just do a chore checklist? Well, you can, and I actually have a free chore checklist that you can print off. I will link it down in the description. But I actually prefer to put it on the morning and evening routine here because that makes sure that it is a part of their day, getting those routines done. She knows every morning she needs to load the washing machine, and it's just part of her morning ritual, part of her morning rhythm, and it's not going to get forgotten. Now, if you have really busy mornings, you're trying to get everybody dressed and out the door for school and work, you may want to put the chores into their evening routine. But I recommend just putting them into one or both. You could have them do one in the morning and one in the evening. And that will just make it part of the day, part of the ritual. And that's really what we're trying to do with all of these videos. We just want the house to stay running almost like it's running itself. And the way to make that happen is by creating really good habits. And number 7 is to discuss rewards and consequences. And again, look at this ahead of time, maybe have some suggestions written out, but don't have anything set in stone before your family meeting because again, we want to get that buy-in from everyone involved. So ask the kids, what would be some good rewards if we do really well with our chores? Let's say, especially for an older child, maybe they do all of their chores all week long without having to be reminded, and maybe they get an extra hour that they get to stay up on the weekend or something like that. But take into account each child's personality, each child's love languages, and if you don't know your children's love languages, I will leave a link to a book in the description down below, but I recommend trying to figure that out as you are setting up these rewards and consequences, because you want them to be effective and something they will be really excited about when they earn them. So I actually don't think it's a bad idea to have specific rewards and consequences for each child in your family. Because if a reward or a consequence isn't motivating to somebody, it's not going to work anyway. So it makes much more sense to spend a little bit of time figuring out exactly what would be motivating and what would not be motivating to each person. And then once you have the rewards and consequences in place, you can go through and explain that chores for cash sheet. Show this to them, explain that if they are doing all of their regular chores, that they have the opportunity to then do some extra chores to make a little money. So I hope you guys found this video helpful for getting your family involved with helping out around the house. Leave a comment down below if you would like me to give you some more specific advice. You can let me know, I work full time, I have this many kids, these are their ages, and I will try to help you out if you have any other questions. But like I said, I couldn't really do a detailed explanation for this in this video because there are just so many variables and so many schedules, so many potential kids' ages and all of those things that I just had to give you kind of the bare bones on how you do this. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have down in the comments, and we can kind of continue the conversation there. If you are finding these videos helpful but would like some more step-by-step instruction, check out Put Your Home on Autopilot, and I will link that in the description down below. And it's basically a step-by-step course for getting your home to run itself. And of course you get a lot more support in there, email support from me, and we can really make sure that your routines are set up exactly the way you need them to be. As always, I'm Kassy with MakingTimeForGiggles.com, and I make videos all about simplifying mom life. So be sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next week as we wrap up how to easily manage your home.